Walters is the spot to be before and after opening day this upcoming Friday afternoon. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark, right off South Capitol Street.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Short beat Bebas, left-handed batter. Here's the pitch. Bebas hits one in the air to straightaway center. Should be deep enough to score Abrams. Marks makes the catch. He'll throw it in toward third. Abrams will dash in to score, and the Nationals lead it 4-0. Sacrifice fly. Short beat Bebas, first RBI as a National.
Outfield is straight away on Wiemer. Straight up stance. Feet close together. Stance a bit open in the box. Wearing number 21. Here's the pitch. Swing and a line drive into center field. It's another hit for Joey Wiemer. Bebas makes the turn at second. Will hold as Marsh charges in to pick it up. Joey Wiemer on base for 10 consecutive at-bats to begin his Nationals career.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark is at Citizens Bank Park, where the Nats have improved to 3-1 in MLB's 2026 regular season. Yes, I said 3-1, and yes, I am about to say 13-2. That was the final of the Nats game at the Philadelphia Phillies on Monday evening in Game 1 of a 3-game series. A 13-2 drubbing of the Phillies by the visiting Nats. The Nats in their 3 wins have outscored the opponents 29-9. The new process under Paul Taboni and Anirudh Kalambi and Blake Butera doing quite well. And the new process is giving us something special. As predicted by Mark, the Nats' new process will give us an opener for Game 2 of this series. Game 2 for the Nats at the Phillies Tuesday evening at 6:40. The Nats starting pitcher will be an opener reliever, P.J. Poulin. All kinds of things are happening with the Nats. All kinds of exciting things are happening with the Nats, and it's good to have you with us. Get on board. If you'd like to sponsor this podcast, we'd love to have you. Contact the man who runs this podcast, Tim Shovers. You can email him, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All kinds of ways that we can serve you, and all kinds of good things happening with the Nats on Monday evening. Joey Wiemer made MLB history. Foster Griffin looked good in his Nats regular season debut. Might we have a new secret weapon for the Nats in Brad Lord? But Mark, 3-1, all 4 games on the road, and these first 2 series at win-now teams in the Chicago Cubs and Philadelphia Phillies. Not bad.
Remember, Al, just a few days ago, we talked about how daunting this early schedule was for the Nats. And I said, what if they end up 3-12 to start the year? Well, they've already got the 3. So they've given themselves plenty of opportunity to add on to that win total before they get through this stretch against playoff contenders. It has really been impressive to see. The offense has been spectacular. It's a little bit weird the way they're scoring runs. I mean, there was not a lot of loud contact in this game. There was just a lot of contact and a lot of balls that were just hit in the right spot. Some bad defense from the Phillies as well. But you put that all together, and it was a convincing win that left the crowd here booing the home team really from the first inning on. And believe it or not, Al, the Nationals are 2 games over 500. That doesn't sound like much, but you know what? It's been a long time since they could say that. June 30th, 2021, they were 40-38. It was the high point of the 2021 season. It's the day Trey Turner hit for the cycle against the Rays and broke his finger sliding into third base on the triple that secured the cycle that was the beginning of the end. We've detailed everything that happened in the month that followed that, starting with the Kyle Schwarber hamstring strain. They're finally back to 2 games over 500 for the first time since then, and they did it by beating up on the team that now employs Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber.
That is such an amazing stat. 5 years practically, nearly half a decade since the Nats were an oh-so-modest 2 games above 500. Think about that. Think about all that encompasses when you look at the last 5 years. Nats fans have been through a lot, so let's enjoy this right now, this nice 3-1 start. And, you look at what was done offensively in this game. It's wild. 13 runs, 17 hits, which were 3 doubles and 14 singles, 5 walks, 8 for 22 with runners in scoring position. The 22 might be the most impressive number. 22 at-bats with runners in scoring position in this game. But you mentioned it. It was the nature of this offensive outburst. The Nats, for the entire game per StatCast, had just 5 exit velocities of at least 97 miles per hour. The Nats were not hitting balls hard. Let's make that clear. But the Nats were putting balls in play and were getting on base, and we cannot go any further without acknowledging what Joey Wiemer did, making MLB history, getting on base again and again and then again. He is the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a walk. So once again, by the way, people being moved all over these lineups. It's fascinating to watch game in, game out what the Nats are doing with these lineups. But Wiemer, a single in each of his first 2 plate appearances, making it so that he reached base in each of his first 10 plate appearances in this regular season, tying Toronto Blue Jays first baseman Carlos Delgado in 2002, most consecutive plate appearances reaching base for an MLB player to begin a regular season since 1951. So a salute to Joey Wiemer. It is incredible what he is doing, but the nature of this Nats offensive outburst on Monday evening was something.
It was like you couldn't place these hits any better. The BABIP gods were smiling down on the Nationals in this game tonight. Some of it was some bad defense from the Phillies. Yes, I mean, their middle infielders had a rough night. But there was just a lot of hitting where they ain't, and it worked for them. Some opposite field singles, some little bloopers. The Wiemer single that extended the streak, he was originally called out. It's a ground ball, little roller to the right side. The first baseman picks it up. Harper tosses it to the pitcher. He's called out. It's a weird play because then Drew Millis is rounding third and ends up kind of giving himself up and gets tagged out. Well, the Nats then immediately challenge the call at first. And we're all thinking, well, is it going to matter? Because Millis got tagged out anyway. So who cares if Wiemer is safe or not? Are they just going to do this to try to extend the streak? So they review it. Yes, he was safe. And as the umpires huddled up, they said, no, Millis goes back to third base. And as Blake Butera explained to us afterwards, and I honestly didn't know this one. I thought that this is why they tell you to finish out the play because you never know what might happen with replay. But as he said, in a case like that, if the runners believe the inning is over, they will be sent back to wherever they were. So even if Millis had scored on the play, they would have sent him back to third base. I did not know that that's the case. Clearly, Rob Thompson didn't know that because he came out and argued and got ejected in the top of the first inning on a really weird play. And the end result of all that was that Joey Wiemer got to extend his streak to 9 and then another single later on to make it 10 in a row.
A lot of little things are going the Nats' way so far. It feels like the baseball gods, for the first time in forever, since, dare I say, 2019, are on the Nats' side. Like a lot of little things like that are bouncing in the Nats' direction. You know, as we're talking Nats offense here, I think my favorite hit of the game was the Jose Tena RBI single in the 2-run 6. So Jose Tena, starting DH and number 7 batter, 3 for 5 with 2 RBI singles and another single. Tena in the Nats 2-run 6 had a 2-out full count RBI single through the right side of the infield for an 8-2 Nats lead, despite the batted ball having an expected batting average per StatCast of 110. And that right there was the Nats offense in this game in a nutshell. And also in that 2-run 6 was a moment that I know brought a smile to your face. It brought a smile to my face. And I'm guessing it brought smiles to many people listening. The Nats scored via successfully pulling off the trick play with runners at the corners of, okay, the guy on first base takes off, gets caught in a rundown between first and second base, and then the runner on third base scores.
And now the runner at first goes, pitch outside, runner stops, runner from third breaks to the plate, he will score. Bebas still on the rundown, they throw it back to Harper, chasing him, and Harper tags him on the back. The inning is over, but the Nationals execute the play to score the run.
Remember how many times in recent years the Nats butchered this play. With Davey Martinez as manager, and then even with Miguel Cairo as interim manager, the Nats could not properly execute this play to save their lives. Here we are, regular season game number 4 with Blake Butera, and the Nats pulled off this play, Mark. Unbelievable.
They pulled it off perfectly, Al. You could not draw it up any better than they did. And the amazing part of it is that the runner who was most responsible for that, the guy on first base, is Jorbit Bebas, who just joined the team, as we know, a couple days before opening day. He wasn't with them in spring training when they're working on these kinds of things. So as Blake Butera said afterward, it's a real credit to Bebas and a real credit to the coaching staff for getting him up to speed so that when the situation arose that they wanted to run that play, and it was a designed play, he knew exactly how to do it, bought the time for Tenna to score from third. It was such a piece of cake. It looked like a Little League game in the best possible way, unlike the way that it had looked here so many times in the past. How many times did we see Josh Bell try to do that, and it never came close to working? And maybe that was more reflection of Josh Bell being the wrong guy to try to pull that off with. But whoever was calling for it clearly never picked up on that fact that he was the wrong guy for it. It's just so nice to see the little things, the fundamentals work for them, and to do it against a team that really did not look good in the fundamentals department in this game. The Phillies are 1-3. As I said, the fans were booing all night. If you just watched this game and you knew nothing about either of these two teams, you would absolutely have thought to yourselves that the Nationals are the team that's expected to do more. The Nationals have more star power. The Nationals are better at executing baseball than the Phillies are, just based on this one game. Who knows how it's all going to play out? But boy, was that dramatic to see the way the Nationals took advantage of the Phillies by doing those little things right in a way that we have not seen here in a long time.
The Phillies were like in spring training mode in this game. It was really odd watching the way that the Phillies played. But, when we talk about the Nats' new and improved process, it's not just about spreadsheets and data and analytics and sports science. It's also about coaching, better coaching. We've lamented Nats coaching, and we've said, look, we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but it sure looks like this team isn't a very well-coached team. I mean, how could you watch this team in recent years and not arrive at that conclusion? And then you see what's happening so far, and you see a play like that trick play on Monday evening. How do you not say to yourself, wow, that would seem to be an example of good coaching, of better coaching, of improved coaching, and that falls under, that category of the process being better.
So, it's only 4 games. It's early, of course, but if they were to keep this up to any extent, and not even, well over 500, but if they just play decent ball, hover around 500 for a while, at what point along the way do we have to declare, what? It was the coaching. Remember Davey Martinez, the beginning of the end for him was when he came out and said, it's never on the coaches. It's always the players.
We're not going to finger point here and say it's coaches. It's never on the coaches.
Well, most of the players here are the same. Some of them are different, yes, but most of them are the same. It's not like they went out and acquired a bunch of way more talented players for this team. If they were to keep this going, can we say definitively, hey, you know what? It was the coaching, or that was at least a big part of it. It's pretty remarkable to be able to say that 4 games in. I would not have thought it would make that dramatic a difference this quickly. And again, small sample, we don't know how it's all going to play out. And they're still not playing great on defense. They're still doing things wrong. So let's not make it out like they are just this perfectly fundamentally sound baseball team right now. But some of the things they are doing, it does look like it's a product of better coaching. And I'm just curious to see if it continues and at what point it becomes obvious to the point that we say, hey, you know what? It really was the coaching last year.
And few things in sports are more powerful than having a coaching staff, having an operation that elevates talent, that takes people who maybe aren't the best and makes them look better, or at the very least maximizes what they can do. And if the Nats now have that, there is such value in being able to perform that way, to be that way. And, we'll see if the Nats are that way, but some encouraging signs here so far. Look, we said it. If the process is better, we will see concrete, tangible signs early on. Like, this is not something that, is just going to be behind the scenes and, maybe 2 years from now we find out that it's the case. No, like, we should see signs right away that things are better. And so far we are seeing those signs. And yeah, just to put a capper on the offense in this game, I mean, nobody really had like a monster game. Luis Garcia Jr. had 3 runs batted in, okay, but you had a bunch of guys up and down the lineup with multi-hit games. I mean, 7 of the Nats starters in this game each had at least 2 hits, and it was just that kind of game where everybody was in on the action. Taijuan Walker, the Phillies starting pitcher, 7 runs, 6 earned in 4 2/3 innings. This is a guy who has had success. The Nats made him look foolish in this game.
Yeah, before the second inning was over, before the top of the second was over, every member of the Nats lineup either had a hit or had driven in a run. I mean, that is across the board. And yeah, it wasn't great contact, but they clearly were seeing Walker and were able to get the bat on the ball. And as I said, hit them where they ain't. I don't know how hard they were trying to place the balls where they were going, but there was something going on there that they did look comfortable against him, and they just kept it going. They didn't let up. They scored 4 in the first, but then they add 1 in the second. They add 2 in the third. They knock Walker out of the game. They keep adding on in the sixth, added even more in the ninth. That was really nice to see because, again, looking back in the past, how often would we see them have one really nice inning and then just shut it down the rest of the way? And not that it mattered because the pitching was good enough that, the Phillies only scored 2 runs, but it's a lot easier to pitch when your offense continues to tack on and add to that lead. It just gives you a comfort level that you don't have in a tight game. And so I really want to credit the way they just stuck with it. And you know what else? Not just the hitting, the hustling. How many plays were there in this game that directly or indirectly, just by running down the line hard, it made a difference and forced some of those defensive errors? I mean, there were 3 consecutive ground balls at one point that the Phillies had a chance to turn a double play, and they didn't turn any of them. And some of that was because of the hustle down the line of the Nationals hitters.
Yeah, it stood out that Blake Butera, during his post-game session with you guys, made it a point to bring up the base running. He was asked about the offense, and he immediately injected base running into that discussion, and justifiably so.
If you listen to Nats Chat, you're probably a Nats fan. Well, unless you're one of the family members Tim, Al, and I pay off to boost our numbers, but the rest of you are legitimate fans of the team, hungry for all the coverage you can get. You're in luck because there's a new home for the most comprehensive coverage out there, natsjournal.com. I'm bringing more than 2 decades of journalistic expertise to Nats Journal, where you can find breaking news, analysis, and lots of interaction with fellow fans and me. You can even access every episode of Nats Chat, past and present, right there on the site. And you can get every single article I write emailed directly to your inbox the moment it publishes. Subscriptions are just $7.99 a month, or sign up for an annual subscription and pay just $5.99 a month. Go to natsjournal.com and select the plan that works for you. Then come along for the ride with me and thousands of fellow Nats fans who have already signed up. That's natsjournal.com, your new home for the best coverage in town.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
Mom,
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a drive, straightaway center. Joey Wiemer drifting back, shy of the warning track. He'll make the catch. And Foster Griffin works a 1-2-3 first inning back in the major leagues.
So the Nats starting pitcher in this 13-2 win at the Phillies on Monday evening was Foster Griffin. What to expect from Foster Griffin in this season as he returns to the majors of having been pitching in Japan? The Nats has passed December 22nd, announced having signed Griffin to a one-year contract. Now, this was a guy who was taken by the Kansas City Royals with the number 28 overall pick all the way back in the 2014 MLB first-year player draft, but was released by the Toronto Blue Jays in November 2022, resurrected his career by pitching in Japan. The Nats sign him. This is his age 30 season, so a real wild card in terms of what you're going to get from this guy this season. Well, Monday evening, he did well. 2 runs in 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, no walks, gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 3 singles. He issued a hit by pitch, 86 pitches, 55 strikes, 31 balls. So the only real big blunder by Griffin, bottom of the 5th, gave up a 2-out first pitch, 2-run homer by Rafael Marchand to left field to cut the Nats lead to 7-2. But otherwise, Foster Griffin did a good job in this game.
It was really impressive, and I know I and a lot of people were just fascinated to see how this went in his first major league start. He's been in the major leagues before, but they were all in relief, 8 appearances. He leaves for Japan for 3 years. The Nats give him a $5 million guaranteed contract and basically declare that he's going to be in their opening day rotation, despite the fact that he's never actually started a major league game before. And what's his first assignment? It's the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park, facing Turner, Schwarber, and Harper to get started. And he retires the side in the first inning, not too much trouble, and just kept it going. What I loved from this, and I think this is a good example of what we're going to see from Foster Griffin, he threw 7 different types of pitches in this game. He threw all of them at least 4 different times during the course of the game. Cutter, 4-seam fastball, sweeper, changeup, splitter, sinker, curveball. And I think he threw every one of those to Bryce Harper in his final at-bat of the game. He had thrown Harper everything that he had. He got him to fly out the first time. He struck him out with a splitter the second time up, and now he's got to face him one more. He knows it's probably end of the line for him. He's already given up the home run. There's 2 more on base. He's just trying to get through that 5th inning. He kept throwing whatever he had, the kitchen sink, at him. He gets to a 3-2 count, and he's like, okay, what's left? What do I have? The cutter is the pitch he threw the most in this game. It's the one he feels the most confident in. And he decided, we've got a 7-2 lead here. I'm going at him with my best pitch. If he hits it hard, so be it. He threw the cutter, jammed him a little bit. Harper hit a sharp grounder, but it was right up the middle and caught by C.J. Abrams for the 3rd out to end Griffin's night to get the win. I was really impressed with not just the results, but the process that he used in this. Here's a guy who is a thinking man's pitcher. He's got this huge arsenal, and he took a lineup that he had to face their top guys 3 times, and he kept finding different ways to go about it to face them. That is the sign of a pitcher who could have some success here in the big leagues.
Was handed a nice lead early, which you always love to see. Nats up 4-0 after the top half of the first inning. And to your point about the job that not only Foster Griffin, but also the bullpen did in this game against the Phillies lineup, the Phillies' top 4 batters in this game, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and Alec Boehm, combined 1 for 17 with 1 walk. That's what those guys did in this game. And with the bullpen in this game, 2 Nats relievers combining for 4 scoreless innings. Brad Lord, terrific. 3 scoreless innings, 3 swinging strikeouts. Lord, over 4 games, is your Nats leader in innings pitched, 5 1/3 over 2 relief outings. But he so far has looked good as the Nats long man. Cole Henry, a scoreless bottom of the 9th, did have some struggles. He gave up a single, issued a wild pitch and a walk, 18 pitches, 9 strikes, 9 balls. But Brad Lord, if he stays healthy, this is the kind of reliever, right, who could accumulate, 85, 90, maybe even 100 innings. Like, that's the way he's being used so far.
You mentioned the nickname Secret Weapon earlier. He can be that guy for this team. And this is why I felt like all along, and I think they probably felt this way too. Yeah, he may be good enough to start, but he might just be more valuable in this kind of role where he can give you multiple innings out of the bullpen several times a week instead of just asking for one start every 5 or 6 days. What he did in this game was invaluable. Yeah, it's a big lead and you say, low leverage, but giving them 3 scoreless innings, keeping the pitch count manageable to the point that he could do that. They only had to use one more guy for the 9th and Cole Henry. And what that did is it saved a bunch of arms for Tuesday's game, which we'll get to here, is going to be an unconventional pitching approach game for the Nationals. You can't do that, what they're going to try to do on Tuesday, without getting something like this from Brad Lord on Monday. It's a real luxury. It impacts not just that night's game, but it can have an impact on what you do the night before, what you do the next day. It's early, but what we've seen from him suggests to me that he can be such a valuable guy as this, I guess we call him long man, but it doesn't mean he's going to always pitch in a blowout. He can pitch meaningful innings and pitch 2-3 innings at a time and really make a difference for this team.
It's very difficult for a reliever who only totals, say, 50, 55 innings to ever be as valuable as a starting pitcher who's halfway decent, right? But if you're a reliever who is getting up there in innings, and you're getting to like 85, 90, maybe even 100 innings, it does start to get interesting in terms of a reliever being as valuable, maybe even more valuable than a decent starting pitcher, especially now with starters not lasting long in games. So like a starting pitcher over a season might only get to, say, 140 innings. So if Brad Lord is strategically deployed and does well and accumulates 95 or 100 innings, is that maybe more valuable than him as a starting pitcher getting to 135, 140 innings? It's at least a conversation. And he so far seems comfortable in the role. Brad Lord, one of the things I really came to respect about him last season, not only was he good, but he, in being toggled between starter and reliever, never complained, seemed to embrace any time he was asked to change things in terms of his role. Like, he just did what was asked of him, and he did it well, and he so far is doing well here now.
Hey Nats fans, you know me as Tim Newmark, the guy who wrote the Nats Chat theme song. You may not know that 2025 is the 10th anniversary of the release of my personal favorite album, Galaxy. Check it out on your favorite streaming platforms today.
Do you love rom-coms? Do you wish you could talk about Christmas movies year-round? Then we have the perfect podcast for you, Hallmarkies Podcast. Throughout the year, we cover all things romance, holiday, and Hallmark, including recaps of every Hallmark show, like When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. You can also get loads of bonus content covering shows like Bridgerton, Sweet Magnolias, and Just Like That. We are an all-female group of friends who are passionate for these shows and movies and give our honest opinions as well as gush over what we love so much. But that's not all. Every Monday, there are interviews with all your favorite actors, writers, directors, and more. Check out Hallmarkies Podcast on all your podcast providers and on YouTube. That's Hallmarkies Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm just kind of speculating here. Maybe one reason that it's listed as TBA. If they don't think that Littell is going to be good for more than 3-4 innings because he just hasn't built up his arm yet, the Phillies lineup is loaded with left-handed hitters at the top, Schwarber and Harper being the chief among them. Littell is a right-handed pitcher. If you don't think he's going to get you through 5 innings to begin with, why not start a reliever? Start a PJ Poulin as the opener.
Tuesday evening, Game 2 of this series, as predicted by you. PJ Poulin is the man. The Nats going with this strategy, and Poulin will be followed by Zack Littell. Is that in fact the case?
Well, Blake Butera wasn't willing to go quite that far yet. He did say that Poulin will start the game, and then he was asked, will Littell follow him? And he just kind of smiled and said, PJ Poulin will start the game. So he wasn't going to declare his intentions about anything after that. I think it would make a lot of sense that would be the case. He maybe just doesn't want to tip his hand. You have to name a starting pitcher officially, but you don't have to name what you're going to do after that. And, maybe Littell is in the second inning, but maybe there's somebody else who comes in before they get to Littell. I would guess that we will be seeing him for at least, say 3 innings, because using Lord for 3 innings in this game, he's not available now to pitch, you wouldn't think, on Tuesday in any kind of capacity. So somebody's got to give you some bulk there. The only other semi-long man they have in the bullpen is Ken Waldachuk, who was not good in his debut against the Cubs. Now, we could see him because it's a lefty-heavy lineup with the Phillies. They may find a spot to use someone like him. But if I had to guess, I would think that Poulin's going to face the top of that lineup, whether that's just the first inning or maybe extending into the second inning a little bit. And then at some point there, we will see Littell for 3, maybe 4 innings, depending on what he's got. Again, he only got to make 3 spring training starts after he signed. The last one of them was a minor league game down in Florida after the team had already left. He's just not built up yet. Now he's healthy. He says he feels good. He's ready to pitch in his mind. We will see just how confident they are in that in him and how careful they are with him. But I'm glad to see this strategy. I think this is the perfect time to do something like this. When you have a starter who you're a little worried about lengthwise, who's not quite all the way there yet, who's a right-hander, a guy who, as you pointed out yesterday, gave up the second most homers in baseball last year, and you're facing a team with some big-time left-handed sluggers at the top of the lineup. You have 3 lefties in your bullpen. You can afford to use one of them early and still have C&L Perez later in the game. To me, I had no official info on this. That was a pure speculative move on my part, but it just all added up in my mind and made me think, if you're going to do it, and we know this group is open to trying different things like this, it made all the sense in the world to me. And it's nice to get one right every once in a while, because I haven't always been right when I make these predictions.
No, you nailed it, man. It's a great call by you. Open to the opener. The Nats now are open to the opener. It's kind of funny because this strategy has been around for a while now. We're going on like a decade now that this has been around, and that the Nats in 2026 now finally are sort of saying, hey, let's give this a shot, sort of speaks to why the team is in the predicament that it is in. But, in doing this, first of all, it's going to be fascinating to see how it works. Second of all, if it does work, does this become kind of a thing? Like when Zack Littell is due to pitch, do the Nats do this? Is this only a one-time thing because of the matchup with the Phillies? We know that the Nats, with the new process, are very matchup-based and matchup-dependent. So maybe this is just, a thing for Tuesday, but not necessarily for other games in the future. So we'll see. But just the fact that they're open to this, I think, is great. And I would imagine it's not the last time we'll see that this season.
Yeah, I don't know that it would happen with Littell again, but I think it depends. If you're facing a team who has some big lefty hitters at the top of your lineup, that makes sense to use a left-hander to start that. I could see them maybe doing it in that case with a Jake Irvin start or a Miles Michaelis start, especially if those guys are struggling. We know Jake Irvin in the first inning last year was a disaster very often. So I would not be surprised if we see it used again. But, it's one thing to say, hey, let's applaud them for doing it, but they have to actually execute it. It's got to work. If Poulin gets into trouble, if he, puts his team in an early hole and it doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, is that really worth it? Did we overthink it? But I think the stars are aligned the proper way to give it a shot here. If it works, great. Maybe they found something they can use again in the future.
Yeah, and I would say this, if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that you can't try it again. Like you can have good process and it just doesn't work. By the way, you mentioning the first inning struggles of Jake Irvin last season. I mean, if ever there was someone for whom you used the opener strategy, it was Irvin last year. It was Mitchell Parker last year, right? His first inning struggles. And it still is baffling that the Nats did not try this opener strategy with those guys. But we're getting it on Tuesday. The Nats are 3-1. We have good vibes with the Washington Nationals. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky as well if you prefer that, at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show to natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
The pitch. Harper swings, hits one off the end of the bat, right center field. This should do it. James Wood is waiting. Wood makes the catch, and the Nationals blow out the Phillies in Game 1 of this 3-game series. 13-2 the final.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.